Okay, let's dive right into this because we are looking at a truly historic moment in the financial and aerospace worlds. We've got breaking news regarding SpaceX, Elon Musk's monumental aerospace company. Reports have just dropped revealing that SpaceX is actively preparing for an initial public offering on the NASDAQ. But here's the really fascinating part. This isn't just a story about rockets. It's actually a story about the hidden economics of space travel and how a seemingly ordinary Wi-Fi business is quietly funding the most audacious intergalactic ambition in human history. So how exactly does selling Wi-Fi fund a mission to Mars? Well, let's find out. To really wrap our heads around the sheer gravity of this upcoming NASDAQ IPO, we need to anchor it with one massive number, $29.4 billion. Right now, that number holds the absolute crown. Back in 2019, the Saudi Arabian state oil company Saudi Aramco set the all-time record for the world's largest initial public offering, raising exactly $29.4 billion. Well, Wall Street insiders are currently projecting that SpaceX's upcoming market debut could actually surpass that colossal figure. That would make it potentially the largest IPO in global financial history. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with a fast-tracked IPO timeline. Then, the secret cash cow funding the whole operation. Third, we'll look at the disruption of rural telecom. Fourth, the $15 billion rocket. And finally, the economic engine tying it all together, the Martian flywheel. Let's move to our first section and see how this builds. The record-breaking IPO, fast-tracked to the NASDAQ. You see, SpaceX initially targeted a late June listing, but they've totally hit the accelerator. Thanks to a surprisingly swift SEC review, we are now looking at a rapid-fire sequence of events. Next week, the official prospectus drops. By June 4th, SpaceX plans to begin intensive investor briefings to drum up that crucial institutional support. Just a week after that, on June 11th, they aim to finalize the pricing of the shares, and the whole thing culminates in a target listing date of June 12th on the NASDAQ. That is moving at literal warp speed for an offering of this unprecedented size. Part 2, the secret cash cow, funding the future with Wi-Fi. To understand why investors are practically tripping over themselves to buy into a space exploration company, we really have to look at where their money actually comes from. Because if you look closely at the filings, SpaceX's near-term survival isn't built on landing humans on Mars. Actually, it's built on something way more mundane, selling internet access. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is that last year, the Starlink division, their satellite internet service, was responsible for an astonishing $11 billion in revenue. That means Starlink drove over 60% of the company's total sales. The rest of SpaceX, all those majestic rocket launches and massive government contracts, made up the remaining 40%. But here is the kicker. Starlink is currently the company's only profitable division. And the growth rate? It's just staggering. Back in 2023, Starlink had around 2 million subscribers. Today, they've skyrocketed to 10 million active users. To put that into perspective and support this massive influx of global customers, SpaceX has launched an orbital constellation of nearly 10,000 satellites. Now, in the early days, Elon Musk dreamed of a network of just 4,000 satellites, which, crazy enough at the time, was more than all the satellites in known existence combined. Achieving that kind of scale requires a relentless, almost brutal engineering methodology. In their IPO paperwork, SpaceX formally defines their core operational philosophy as the algorithm. It's a super strict 5-step process. Make less dumb, delete, optimize, accelerate, and automate. By rigorously applying this algorithm, they've managed to slash the manufacturing cost of a Starlink kit by 59% since 2022. There's actually a great anecdote from the source material that perfectly captures this culture. Originally, engineers were releasing Starlink satellites into orbit individually, one by one, because they were terrified of mid-air collisions. While Musk famously forced them to try releasing an entire batch all at once. The engineering team was sweating bullets, but they did it, and it worked flawlessly, which massively accelerated the entire global deployment. Moving on to part 3, disrupting rural telecom, the USF dispute. You can't grow to 10 million internet subscribers without stepping on some earthly toes. Starlink's explosive expansion is actively threatening legacy telecom frameworks, and it's creating immense regulatory drama around the FCC's $8.5 billion Universal Service Fund. Half of that massive fund goes to the High Cost Program, which subsidizes rural telecom operators to build networks in hard-to-reach areas. SpaceX recently sent a bold letter to the FCC arguing that this program should just be completely sunsetted. Their stance is basically, look, we already solved the rural broadband problem with satellites, so stop subsidizing our terrestrial competitors. But on the other side, you have rural telecom operators and industry analysts, like Blair Levin from New Street Research, who warn that ending the program would be an absolute disaster. They argue it would financially strand billions in existing fiber investments and severely damage emergency 911 services, plus hurt institutional connectivity for rural hospitals and schools, services that they insist satellites simply cannot replace. So it's a really high-stakes battle between disruptive satellite tech and foundational fiber infrastructure, with the FCC caught right in the middle. Which brings us to part 4, the $15 billion rocket, the expense of ambition. So you might be wondering, why is SpaceX fighting so aggressively for every single dollar of earthly internet market share? Well, because they need that cash to feed a massive deep space capital sink. It's time to shift our focus from the highly profitable internet business to the incredibly expensive reality of building deep space rockets. Everything kind of clicks into place when you read this quote from Elon Musk at a 2015 launch event. He said, "What's needed to create a city on Mars? Well, one thing's for sure, a lot of money. So we need things that will generate a lot of money." That is the grand thesis of SpaceX right there. The internet business, the regulatory battles, the manufacturing optimizations, all of it exists purely to bankroll the intergalactic moonshot. And the costs of that moonshot are, frankly, staggering. While Starlink makes billions, SpaceX's space division reported a $662 million loss for just the first 3 months of this year alone. That massive quarterly plunge is driven entirely by the heavy investments in research, development, and infrastructure for their next-generation rocket system. That next-generation system is, of course, Starship. In their IPO filing, SpaceX estimates they have spent $15 billion developing it so far, with $3 billion of that budgeted for 2025 alone. They're actually targeting a test flight for Thursday evening of their new Starship V3 from their starbase in Texas. Now, this V3 rocket is a massive leap forward in engineering. It features a totally new fuel transfer tube that allows its 33 Raptor engines to begin firing simultaneously and much quicker. The engines themselves have been completely redesigned, yielding way more thrust while weighing less. Ultimately, this absolute beast is designed to carry 100 metric tons to low Earth orbit. That's more than 4 times the capacity of their current workhorse, the Falcon 9 rocket. If they can get Starship running reliably, they estimate it will reduce the cost of reaching orbit by an astonishing 99%. Part 5, the Martian flywheel, tying it all together. When you bring the two halves of the business together, you get this brilliant mechanical truth outlined in their prospectus. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. Think of it as a continuous loop. Step 1, Starship uses its massive payload capacity to launch up to 60 Starlink satellites at once. Step 2, those satellites beam internet down to Earth, expanding the subscriber base and generating billions and highly profitable revenue. Step 3, that massive revenue stream is then funneled directly back up into funding more Starships and, ultimately, the colonization of Mars. Rockets launch the satellites, and the satellites fund the rockets. It is a perfectly vertically integrated loop. Because of this massive, almost sci-fi scope, the IPO prospectus is filled with details you simply do not see in normal financial filings. Right there, alongside the standard revenue charts, the company flatly declares, "We do not want humans to have the same fate as dinosaurs." They're literally claiming a total addressable market of $29 trillion, encompassing markets on the Moon, Mars, and beyond. They even revealed that Elon Musk's personal pay package is directly tied to establishing a permanent human colony on Mars with at least 1 million inhabitants. So the crucial point is this: SpaceX is no longer just a private playground for deep space dreams. By going public on the NASDAQ, they are inviting the intense, quarter-by-quarter scrutiny of Wall Street investors. The big question is, can this internet-funded road to Mars survive that kind of pressure? Now, institutional investors absolutely love $11 billion in Wi-Fi revenue, for sure. But will they tolerate the massive, ongoing cash burn required for complex, entirely unproven aerospace tasks, like in-orbit refueling, which are absolutely necessary to reach the red planet? That tension between earthly profits and intergalactic ambition is going to be the most fascinating financial story of the decade. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope this helped clear up the massive mechanics behind the SpaceX IPO. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.